Hello and welcome to the Ross and Cromarty Citizens Advice Bureau Right Here, Right Now podcast. My name is Emily and I am one of the advisors here at CAB. Joining me today is our Welfare Rights Officer, Jenna. Hi Jenna, and thank you for joining me.
Hi Emily, thank you for having me.
Today we're going to cover some of the main benefits that are available to those who are working age. So that typically means 18 up until state pension age, but it can cover 16 to 17-year-olds in certain circumstances. For example, if you have children or you have no parental support. This podcast doesn't cover disability benefits as they're quite a large topic and we're going to cover those in a different episode. So we'll start off with universal credit. Universal credit has replaced several what are called legacy benefits, which include things like income support and tax credits. This means that you can no longer make a new claim for these benefits and instead need to claim universal credit. However, if you're already claiming a legacy benefit, you can continue to claim it for now. People will eventually be migrated over, but that hasn't happened yet. Universal credit is means tested, so it is calculated based on your income. So I wanted to first discuss the application process for universal credit, and then we'll go on to chat about how it works and kind of break down how it's worked out. The easiest way to apply for universal credit is online. If you go to www.gov.uk/apply universal credit, you can start your claim. You'll need to provide an email address and create a username and password, as well as answering some security questions. After you've done this, your account is created, and then there's several questions that you need to answer. You'll be asked about your household, housing costs, any illnesses or disability that you have, earnings, and so on. Once you've answered all of the questions, you need to confirm your identity, either through Government Gateway, or if you can't do it this way, you will get a call to arrange for you to visit your local job centre. You will need to agree to what are called your claimant commitments, and then you will be assigned a work coach who will discuss these with you. It is really important to note that if you are in a couple, you must claim as a couple. To do this, you both need to create accounts and then you will be given a linking code to join them together. If you can't claim online, you can claim by phone by calling 0800 328 5644, or you can make an appointment at your local job centre who can help you make a claim. Once your claim is complete, it takes 5 weeks for your first payment to come. This is because there is an assessment period. Jenna, could you tell me a little bit more about how the assessment period works?
Of course, well, with universal credit, it's paid in arrears, so the amount that you're entitled to, it might vary depending on your circumstances or your income during each of the assessment periods. And then you're paid, as you said, 7 days after the end of your assessment period. So this means if you claim on the 1st of May, DWP will assess your income and circumstances from the 1st to the 31st of May, and your first payment would be on the 7th of June. This allows the DWP or the Benefits Agency to assess your income in real time. This is helpful if you're offered extra hours at work, maybe if you're a temporary worker or on a 0 hours contract, without having to switch between different benefits. And the DWP will make an assessment based on your earnings that month. In practice, how it works is HMRC, the government body dealing with tax and national insurance, reports your earnings directly to the DWP or the Benefits Agency without you having to do too much. By calculating your income in real time, DWP can make any necessary deductions.
So you can still earn money while claiming universal credit, but they will make deductions for the amount that you've earned.
Yeah, that's right. So say you have a job that for a couple of days and you're paid a couple £100 for that job, you will still probably receive universal credit for that month, but it will be deducted. And I think you're going to explain a little bit about how the deductions work.
Yeah. Okay, so before we go on to really discuss the deductions, I wanted to cover a little bit about how the overall amount that you're entitled to is calculated. So there is a standard allowance which changes depending on your circumstances. There's a single person standard allowance and a couple standard allowance, which again is why you need to claim as a couple if you're in one. If you are single and under 25, the standard allowance is 265.31. If you are single and over 25, this is 334.91. If you are in a couple and are under 25, the payment is 416.45 for you both. If you are in a couple and over 25, it's 525.72 per month for both of you. On top of the standard allowance, there are several elements that you may be able to get depending on your circumstances. The first one that I want to cover is the housing element, which for working age people has now replaced housing benefit. Jenna, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
The housing element is paid to help with your rent. It's paid directly to the claimant in most cases, although in Scotland you can arrange for this to be paid directly to your landlord, which might be helpful if you think you're going to struggle to keep that money aside until your rent's due, for example. The amount you receive, though, it's important to note it might not cover your full rent. The amount awarded is based on the local housing allowance if you rent privately, or the social sector size criteria, known as the bedroom tax, if you rent from a local authority or housing association. If this applies to you, you might be able to claim a discretionary housing payment though, so contact your local CAB or local authority for help with that. And in some cases, people claiming universal credit would still have to claim housing benefit, for example, if they're in temporary or supported accommodation.
Okay, so if you're renting from the council in a normal lease or private landlord, then you would need to claim universal credit and get the housing element. However, if you're placed in temporary or supported accommodation, you might still need to claim housing benefit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. Is there any help available if you don't rent your property but you have a mortgage?
Yes, in most cases. If you're a homeowner, you might be entitled to the support for mortgage interest, or SMI. It's help towards the interest on your mortgage, not the actual repayments. And it is a loan rather than a benefit. So if you sell the property or transfer ownership, you would have to pay it back. If you're buying another property, though, you can transfer that loan from one to the other. The support for mortgage interest payments are available to people who've been claiming certain benefits for certain periods of time. It varies between benefits, so the best option is to contact your CAB for more advice. Sorry, excuse me. Contact your Citizens Advice Bureau for more advice.
And what about those people who have children?
For those who have children, a child element is included in your overall entitlement. There are limits to this, which are known as the two-child limit, which means if you have 3 or more children, unless the third or subsequent child was born before the 5th of April 2017, or certain exceptions apply, you're only going to receive the child element for your oldest 2 children. If you do think an exemption applies, though, please contact your Citizens Advice Bureau who'll be able to explain it to you. If your child is disabled and entitled to disability living allowance, which we'll cover in a later episode, you can also get a disabled child element or a severely disabled child element, depending on what rate of DLA they receive, or disability living allowance. And there's also help with childcare costs if you meet certain criteria.
Perfect. And what about those people who have an illness or disability that means that they can't work?
Okay, well, if you claim universal credit because you're unable to work, or you become unable to work while you're already claiming, tell your work coach right away. You can do that on your journal, or if it's a telephone claim, by telephoning the centre. You will be asked to provide a Med 3 certificate, which is also known as a sick line or a fit note, from your GP to confirm that you're not fit for work. You will then undergo a work capability assessment. You'll be sent a form called a UC50 form, which asks about your health conditions and how they affect your ability to do certain work-related tasks. You may be asked to attend a medical assessment with a healthcare provider at that point. Again, it's important to be aware that help is available for this. The Citizens Advice Bureau can help you to complete the forms and talk you through the medical assessment. If the DWP agree that you are not fit for work, they will place you in one of two conditionality groups. The limited capability for work element means that although you're not expected to look for work, and it's important to remember that you can't be made to apply for or accept a job as a condition of receiving your benefits if you're in that group, you may still be asked to undertake some work-related activity to prepare for future work. So that might be updating your CV or attending an online course. It should take account of your illness. You shouldn't be asked to do anything that your illness would prevent you from doing. And if that is the case, then speak to your work coach. For most people, unless you've been continuously entitled to the limited capability for work element since before the 5th of April 2017, there isn't any additional money payable for this. The other conditionality group is limited capability for work and work-related activity. It used to be called the support group under ESA, which was much easier. If this is applied, then you don't need to undertake any work-related activities as a condition of receiving your benefits, although you can choose to do so.
And you mentioned that there's no money for limited capability for work. If you're placed in limited capability for work and work-related activity, is there extra money available then?
There is extra money related activity. There's an extra £354.28 a month.
Okay. I think it's important to mention here as well that in order to get placed in one of these groups, you need to complete the form and undergo the assessment, and this can take some time. It can take a little while for the form to come, and even after that, it could be 16 weeks once the form is in before you get your assessment. So if you have completed a benefit check and are expecting quite a high amount of universal credit with that extra element included, be aware that it could take some months before you actually get that element.
That's right. It should be backdated though. If you've applied for the limited capability for work and work-related activity element, and it takes them 6 months to make that decision, you will still, at the end of that 6 months, you'll get any money backdated that you should have been paid in that time.
Yeah, it just takes a while before you get it.
It does. It's also very quickly worth mentioning there that you can apply for an advanced payment with universal credit if you need to.
Of course. So the advance payment, let's cover that as well. So you can apply for an advance when you make, or immediately after you make your application, once your identity has been confirmed. This is an advance payment so that you don't have to wait 5 weeks to get the amount that you're entitled to. However, this is treated as a loan and you do need to pay it back. So Universal Credit will make deductions from your future payments in order to recoup that money.
That's right, and it's worth thinking about whether or not you can manage those payments in the future, because the advance payment isn't just an easy option to get money quickly, because as you said, you will have to pay it back. So it's worth thinking about whether or not that's needed.
Absolutely, because it could cause you difficulty further down the line.
Exactly.
So we've covered those who have an illness or disability, but what about those who are maybe not working because they're caring for somebody else who has a disability?
If you spend 35 hours or more a week looking after a disabled person, you should be entitled to the carers element. People receiving the carers element don't have to look for work or undertake work-related activity as a condition of receiving universal credit.
So now, as we mentioned, your income is used to calculate how much of your total amount you will get. For each £1 that you earn, 55 pence is deducted. However, if you have children or an illness or disability that means that you can't work, you will have a protected income amount that won't count towards this. Therefore, they will only start making those 55 pence deductions on top of that amount. Now we will move on from universal credit to discuss another benefit which is not means tested. This is contribution based ESA. This is a benefit that is available if you are unable to work. What, Jenna, is the eligibility criteria for ESA?
Okay, well, just before we start, so people don't get confused, there is an older means tested benefit called income related employment and support allowance. That's now been replaced by universal credit, so you can't claim that anymore. But what you can claim is new style ESA, or employment and support allowance, which is a contributions based benefit for people who aren't fit for work. It's based on your national insurance contributions rather than your household income or savings, although some incomes such as unemployment insurance might still be counted. The criteria used to determine if you're fit for work is the same as it is for universal credit. You will have to provide fit notes, complete a form called an ESA 50, and probably attend a medical assessment.
If you apply for ESA, there is an assessment phase before you have your assessment. During this assessment phase, you will be paid £61.05 if you're under 25 and up to 77 if you're 25 or over. Once you've had your assessment, you'll be placed in one of two groups. There's the work-related activity group, which continues to pay you £77 a week. And then there's the support group, which is paid £117.60 per week. If you are in the work-related activity group, you can claim ESA for up to 1 year. If you are in the support group, you can continue to claim after your year has ended. If you want to claim ESA, again, the easiest way to do it is online, and you can do this at www.gov.uk/employment support allowance. When you make your claim, you'll need to answer questions about yourself, and if you have one, you'll need to upload a sick line from your doctor. If you have been claiming statutory sick pay prior to claiming ESA, you will also need to provide an SSP1 form, which is a form your employer should give you and fill out and give you when your statutory sick pay comes to an end. If you can't claim online, you can do it over the phone by calling 0800 328 5644. So just to mention, really, the ESA is there to cover you if you have come to the end of your statutory sick pay entitlement and you can no longer claim it, or if you're not classed as an employee, for example, if you're self-employed and you weren't able to claim statutory sick pay in the first place.
I think it might be important to mention as well, you can claim ESA and universal credit at the same time, and you only need to to pass the work capability assessment once within a certain time frame. So if you're awarded ESA and you apply for universal credit, you'll automatically be given the limited capability for work or work-related activity element, whichever one is relevant to you.
Yeah, okay. So another thing to mention is that you can still work while you're on ESA under certain circumstances, but you must be working less than 16 hours per week. So you can claim universal credit and ESA at the same time. However, your ESA entitlement will be deducted in full from your overall universal credit entitlement. For both benefits, you will need to undertake the work capability assessment. And depending on the outcome of that assessment, if you do it for ESA, it should entitle you to be placed in the correct work capability group for universal credit, as they are equivalent.
That's right, and it is worth remembering that although the ESA is deducted pound for pound, depending what group you were placed in, for example, if you're in the support group, your overall entitlement for universal credit goes up, so you still might be a little bit better off.
Exactly.
It's worth doing a benefit check to find out.
Perfect. There are a couple of other things that I wanted to mention. The first is council tax reduction. Can you tell me what the eligibility criteria for this is?
They're quite basic. It's just being on a qualifying benefit, such as universal credit or housing benefit, or you're on a low income.
And to apply for council tax reduction, you can do this at the Highland Council website. You just need to search for council tax reduction and it will take you to the link for the application. This is a site called Apply Once, and it has a built-in calculator which will tell you how much you can get, and then you can continue on, fill in all the questions and submit your application.
Yes, and it's important to remember as well with council tax reduction, even if you're awarded full council tax reduction, you've still got to pay your water and sewerage charges. Sometimes people get caught out with this and don't realise until they're in quite significant debts. So pay attention to your council tax bills, even if you think you're getting council tax reduction.
Perfect. Now, for all of these benefits, I feel that it's really important to mention that if during the course of your claim you have a change of circumstance that will affect how much you get paid, you must tell the benefit provider. For universal credit, you can do this in your online account in the journal or using the change of circumstance link. And for others, you should phone them to inform them. It's really important to do this, as you're risking having an overpayment that they're going to look to take back, and you might be breaking the law if you don't tell them.
Absolutely. And it does work both ways. You might be missing out on money. You might be entitled to more money because of your change of circumstances. And until you actually report it, you're not going to be paid it. They won't backdate
Exactly.
something if you haven't told them.
It's not always a bad thing.
No.
I wanted to address a couple of notable changes, Jenna, relating to both EU nationals and Ukrainians. That's your area of expertise, not mine, though.
Okay. Well, the rules for EU nationals claiming benefits in the UK have changed significantly since the UK left the European Union. For most EU nationals, you will need to claim. Sorry. To claim most benefits, you now need to pass the habitual residence test, showing that you've been habitually resident in the UK with a valid right to reside. If you are an EU national and you haven't already applied for settled status, you will need to make a late application in order to claim benefits in the UK. For Ukrainians, the government has announced that Ukrainian nationals moving to the UK under the Homes for Ukrainian scheme will be exempt from the habitual residence test. So what that means in practice is that a Ukrainian refugee or guest can claim universal credit or other benefits the same as if they were a British citizen from the day they arrive in the country. The same exemption applies to Afghan nationals who left Afghanistan after the 15th of August 2021.
I think that's really an excellent point to make, certainly. I just wanted to cover off a little bit. We've talked about the different elements for universal credit, and it can be quite difficult for people to understand what they're actually entitled to. So I just wanted to cover off what a benefit check is. So we do benefit checks and we ask you various questions about your circumstances. So we'll need some information for you, and there are some questions that you might not be too happy to answer, but it's always going to be information that we need. For example, we'll need to know what your income is. We need to know which benefits you already claim. We need to know what your housing costs are, and we need to know how much savings and if you have any assets. It's really important to understand people's financial and living circumstances to understand which benefits they're entitled to. But if you think that you might be entitled to some benefits, the best thing you can do is get in touch with us or go online and do a benefit check. And then it gives you a better understanding of what you should be claiming, so that you kind of know which direction you're heading in.
Absolutely. And I think I want to say as well, I know that some people can be put off claiming universal credit because of stories they've read in the media over the years. Please don't be put off. There is lots of help available to claim universal credit, and then if you encounter any problems after claiming, if you're entitled, claim it. Why miss out on something that you might be entitled to?
Absolutely, and the Citizens Advice Bureau are always here to help people if they do encounter any issues. All you need to do is give us a call and we'll be able to help you and have a look at your account. That's not an issue at all.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think that's a great place to wrap things up for today. Thank you, Jenna, for joining me. I just want to say that if anybody does have any issues regarding benefits that they're claiming, or thinks that they may be entitled to anything and would like to find out and do a benefit check with us, then they certainly should call us at Ross and Cromarty Citizens Advice Bureau. Our number is 01349 883 333. Thank you for listening, and anything you want to add, Jenna?
No, thank you for having me.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.